The access road, or lack thereof, from the Dogger Run to the shopping mall in El Centro is horrific. It's horrific. It's an accident, it's a disaster waiting to happen. It's horrible. How that thing was passed, I'll never know. I pray to God that this body and the people that are entrusted with the safety of its residents are going to do everything possible to mitigate it. And that is something that you have to think very, 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 very seriously, because you could have a backup party. We are all residents, most of us, and we know that come the holiday season, you have a backup of cars going past the cemetery and God knows where else. You have impatient people, you have people that are susceptible to causing accidents. Those things have to be monitored. I don't know if they put a police car or a butt there, directly by. But the thing is that the benefit to the city far outweighs, in my opinion, the concerns that we might have. There are going to be some detriments. But if you look at this thing diligently and you are made aware, if your city planner is readily available to recommend, to explain, to talk, to designate, to assign, to define, to modify, to improve issues such as those, this is a good project for the city. It is a good project. I really don't understand this thing about the raw sewage and the pressure and the canals, and I didn't even know that existed. Mr. Guerra was mentioning that there's a solution to that, and it's existed for years. This thing about eliminating 20-some hundred houses, well, I don't think that for the next few years we're going to have to worry too much about building more, because there's more houses that are not being built and houses that are already built that are not being occupied. But things are going to change. As far as the availability of water, there is rationing, there is modification. And I'm sure that this body and the planners are taking all that into consideration. So as far as the value imposed to the detriment to the city, I think that it's a good venue for the city to have the city to provide jobs, entertainment, and influence the people that will hopefully generate business for the existing entities that are already in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other public comments?
Good evening. My name is Jacob Armstrong with Caltrans, the Development Review branch. And I just wanted to address our concerns with the project. We're not here for or against the project, but I just wanted to read to you our concerns, the letter we're going to present to you today at the meeting, and I'll just quote the letter briefly and address our concerns at this time. So I'm just going to go ahead and read right off our letter, and I'll provide a copy to I guess, Romano. The city and their staff report addressed our concerns regarding 111 in the Cape. We wanted the analysis to include that intersection. We understand it's K-rail, it's not an existing intersection, but there's currently a permit in right now to put the signals in. We felt it was appropriate that this project analyze the signal, particularly for future impacts. That was done, and then the EIR identified and added a field of mitigation associated with that. That was our only specific concern or comment that we had remaining. The other issue revolves mainly around the city's plan to finance and implement the fair share mitigation identified in the EIR. The EIR is currently written is ambiguous both in determination and implementation of the fair share. For example, the EIR mitigation monitoring program describes the calculation of cost based on a cost per average daily trip. The EIR also states that the fair share calculation will be determined by the city, but identifies the fair share percentage, which is not consistent with the mitigation monitoring report description of the fair share calculation. So it's a little bit ambiguous and unclear how the calculation is derived and how it's going to be implemented. The specific plan, as you know, required by law is to develop a finance and implementation program. One of the things that we would like to see in a specific plan, especially for a project of this size and this magnitude, is to have the city identify some implementation measures through either a capital improvements program, special assessment districts, impact fee programs. Typically, those things are identified in a specific financing plan. Your EIR describe a general framework financing plan, and then you allude to the fact that you'll be developing a more comprehensive plan at a later time prior to the construction and development. And that's a little bit of a concern to our agency because as a reviewing agency, and in some cases will be a responsible agency, we come in for permit for some of these improvements. The only thing we have to fall back on is the EIR being consistent with your specific plan. In order for us to have the assurances that the city is going to have a financing plan in place is to have it laid out in the EIR, which in this case is, like I said, it's just general framework. So you give ideas of financing plan options, but you don't specify how the city plans on actually implementing those. So that's a little bit of concern of our agency. One thing I also wanted to mention too in our comments, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at the response to comments from Caltrans, but there's a bit of confusion regarding Caltrans comments calling things a direct impact versus things identified as a cumulative impact. And I briefly just wanted to explain that to you or clear where we're coming from. It's typically standard practice in the highway capacity manual to, when an intersection, a signalized intersection is already failing, instead of level of service F or level of service D, whenever you add over 2 seconds of delay, I'm not going to get too technical, it's usually considered a significant impact. And most jurisdictions, in terms of their CEQA thresholds, adopts that HCM methodology. So, for example, if you have a signal that's already LOSF, which there are plenty of cases out here that's currently at LOSF, if a development comes along and adds 2 seconds delay, you're required to mitigate back to the pre-project conditions. You're not required to mitigate for existing deficiencies, mitigate back to LOSC, but at least maintain it at the existing level. So our comment regarding the direct versus cumulative is there are many cases in the document where it's already a failing intersection, you're increasing delay more than 2 seconds, and you throw all those impacts into a cumulative scenario. So at the end of the day, there's no real identification of trying to at least maintain these already failing facilities. So that was our point in mentioning the direct versus cumulative, which, like I said, is a pretty standard practice. It's not something that Caltrans, our district, has adopted. It's pretty universal. The city's response to that comment, for the most part, was that that approach is not a valid approach. That was essentially the response to the comments, which covered most of our comments in the EIR. So, just to wrap it up real quick, the main point that we're trying to make here is that intersections are already failing, they continue to get worse, without direct mitigation identified, which there's not, and without some kind of finance and implementation plan to fund these improvements, it falls back to the region or Caltrans, and we're hoping the city would realize that and take the opportunity as part of their discretion of improving this project to ensure that these improvements to the regional transportation system are financed and are going to be implemented per the planning and zoning laws for a specific plan and person. That's what I have to say, and I just wanted to mention that we work very closely with the staff, Ralph and Armando, and we hope these issues can be resolved, and we would like to get more information on this comprehensive financing plan that is identified in the EIR. Thank you, Mr. Armstrong.
Okay, is there any other public comments? Okay, I'd like to close the public hearing. And now we can have some discussion. Mr. Martinez, please.
Well, what Mr. Armstrong just stated kind of throws a curveball to the mix. I'm all for the casino. I think the casino will be good for Calexico. It's shutting the arm for our community and for our economic crisis that we're going through right now. But there are some things out there that we still need to look at. I mean, one of them is what Caltrans is proposing and how the signal lights already failing and will probably continue to fail. Another thing is that sewage, another pipe going down underneath the All-American. I know we already have several local ones, but I haven't heard anybody talk about any alternative means of shipping that sewage to our wastewater. And the other concern that I have is the high-low density law that we have with the state of California. I heard John stating that right now we're not in compliance and that we have a fraudulent form. So